there she is, that's what keeps me up at night. Oh gee whiz, that's why I can't eat a bite. Those flaming eyes, that flaming youth. Oh mister, oh sister, tell me the truth. Now ain't she sweet, see her coming down the street. I ask you confidentially, ain't she sweet? Ain't she nice? Look her over once or twice. I ask you confidentially, ain't she nice? Cast an eye in her direction. Oh me, oh my, ain't that perfection? I repeat, don't you think that's kinda neat? I ask you confidentially, ain't she sweet? Tell me where, have you seen one just like that? I declare, that sure is worth looking at. Oh boy, how sweet those lips must be. Oh, gaze on it, doggone it, answer me. Ain't she sweet, see her coming down the street. I ask you confidentially, ain't she sweet? Ain't she nice? Look her over once or twice. I ask you confidentially, ain't she nice? Just cast a little old eye in her direction. Oh me, oh my, ain't that perfection? I repeat, don't you think that's kinda neat? I ask you confidentially, ain't she sweet? Just cast an eye, why, in her direction. Oh me, oh my, ain't that perfection? I repeat, don't you think that's kinda neat? I ask you confidentially, ain't she sweet?
Just in all your ways, you have such power, deep love and wisdom. You are God to endless days.
Father, we feel your tender compassion. We are dust and still you care. Graciously you hear our prayer. How you sustain us, teach us and guide us. Help from you is always there.
like daisies will
This is Aunty Anne, and today is September the 2nd, 2018, and Auntie has turned 100 today. Doesn't look an age over 39, right?
Yeah.
Like
Royal
this.
wave, Auntie. Royal
Yes. Okay, that's good. Okay.
Oh, mister, oh, sister, tell me the truth. Now, ain't she sweet? See her coming down the street. I ask you confidentially, ain't she sweet? Ain't she nice? Look around her arms twice. I ask you confidentially, ain't she nice? Sweet.
Look. Now we're talking.
I ask you confidentially, ain't she sweet?
Ain't she nice?
Look her over
Once or twice.
I ask you confidentially, ain't she nice? Just can't in her direction.
Yes, she's nice.
On your mind.
Everything I say is very good.
Okay, well, say something
I'm
to her.
just
Pretend it's
hoping
your
you're going
sister.
to feel better. I hope that you feel better. Because we want to stay healthy. We want to stay good. You know, they're old, but people live to many old ages. We can live a long time, yes. So keep healthy, eat good food, and I'll be seeing you before long.
Well, we'd like to thank everyone for attending today so far. We're going to continue our memorial service of Anne by having Anne's friend of 52 years, Lyle Brewster, to give the memorial talk. As a reminder, if you do have your video on, please be aware of your background as it is visible to everyone. Brother Brewster, you have our attention.
Well, on behalf of the family of Anne, we'd like to extend a very warm welcome to everyone who has joined us here virtually to be a source of comfort to the family and to remember our dear Sister Anne. Sister Kenneth was born September the 2nd, 1918. And she passed away March 1st, 2022. And that was just one day short of 103.5 years. An amazing run, as they say, and lived her wonderful life. So Anne leaves behind her dear sister and closest friend, Kathleen Minkin, her nephew, Ron, who she treated like if he was her own son, and his wife, Natasha, who was always there to provide loving care for Anne. Actually, Ron and Natasha referred to her as the sweetheart of sweethearts, and that's how much love and care they had for her, feelings for our dear Sister Anne. It was also her niece Jeanette and her three children, her 8 nieces and nephews in Saskatchewan, her late nephew's wife, Paula Burke, in Barrie. We can all be a source of comfort to each and every one of them. Now, Anne's parents, John Shurko and Anastasia Tershenko, immigrated to Canada in the 1880s. They moved in from Ukraine. So they settled in Saskatchewan, and then in 1939, Anne moved from Saskatchewan to Toronto. She met Charlie, her husband Charles Kenneth, And they were married November 16, 1940. Now when Anne first came to Toronto, she worked in the Forest Hill. That's the old Vaughan territory. And she worked there as a housekeeper. That's where she got to know about the truth. She was called on by Sister Howe, and she liked what she was hearing. But of course, she was at work, so she decided to have Sister Howe meet her in the park later in the evening. And so they met, and she got what she heard from Sister Howe, and she liked what she was learning. She appreciated it so much that she did just as Andrew did when he got to know about Jesus Christ. When he found the Messiah, the first thing he did, he ran and told his brother, Simon, we have found the Messiah. And that's the same with Anne. She called up Kathleen and said, I think I have found the truth. And so she was, Kathleen mentioned to me that she told her all the good things that she was already learning about the truth, how we could live in a paradise, how there was no hell, and things like that. So Anne was eager to spread the good news. Actually, in about 2 or 3 weeks from then, Anne was already going to spread the good news with others in the field ministry. And in 1941, in the summer of 1941, Anne got baptized. And you might say, well, that's pretty quick. Well, remember that in the old days, the qualifications for field ministry and baptism was not the same. Actually, Anne recalls that the brother asked her, do you know God's name? She responded, he says, do you know the name of his son? She responded, and that was good enough. And so she was baptized, I think, by Jack Nathan, and she was off and ready into the ministry. So you can very well appreciate that a person with that kind of ready response would have a real zeal for the ministry. And that was Anne. She was sharing in the ministry. She was pioneering in the days when it was 100 hours for the requirement for pioneering. And so she was zealously sharing the good news with others. And she recalls an encounter she had. She was on Eglinton Avenue working. And in those days, in his early years, she had the placard or the sandwich man, where you have a placard on the front and another placard on the back. And she was advertising possibly one of the convention. And she looked across the street, and who did she see? Her husband, Charlie. And their eyes met because Anne said she saw him and she was fairly sure that he saw her. So what would she do? She decided, well, I better get home a little bit early today. And so Anne got home a little bit early, and Anne had a way with the spices. Anne could make the kitchen with the aroma that just got the digestive juices going. So Anne prepared a nice meal. She had the onions, the garlic, and the mushrooms going. And when Charlie came home, he just got a whiff of all the spices. He didn't say anything. She didn't say anything. She let the spices do the talking. And so it was uneventful. No mention of her doing the placard work up on Eglinton Avenue. And I'm sure if you know Anne, she probably had one of her favorite Chelsea buns all waiting for dessert. But of course, it went on without much of a hitch there because she had the right aroma for Charlie at that particular time. Now, I met Anne in 1970 when I first came to Canada. And I eventually moved on the same street. She was at 350 Winona, and we moved in 281 Winona. So sometimes me and my mom walking to go on to Oakwood and go up to 402 Oakwood Avenue where the Kingdom Hall was. We would meet from time to time and have a nice chat going to the Kingdom Hall. And it would be the same thing on our way back. And she had 2 sisters living on top of her in the house that they had. So it was nice association as we went back and forth to the Kingdom Hall. And so we enjoyed good company with Anne, and also a good meal from time to time with her as well. So that was very, very enjoyable. Then in 1978, Anne and Charlie moved up to Barrie. And again, a wonderful time for Anne. Actually, they remarked that it was one of the kind of the most exciting time of her life, or a time of life that she really enjoyed. They mentioned some names here that she pioneered with: Phyllis Carras, Pearl Williams, Marcy Ellis, Terry Paling, Diane Kraft, the Kings, the Sperlings, and the Allisons all had an association. They would meet together for the field ministry, had coffee together, and of course, they had their favorite restaurant that they would be in. But Anne was zealous for the ministry, and that was prime for Anne. She shared vigorously in the field ministry. She loved family. She put family first. And when she first met Natasha, it was like, okay, that's it. Love at first sight for Natasha and Anne. And so Ron benefited because she loved Natasha so much. And Natasha showed her love and devotion for her for the tremendous care that she provided later in Anne's life. Then in 2008, Anne moved back to Markham to live with her sister Kathleen. And again, they had a wonderful time together where they could go with Ron and Natasha down to Niagara Falls area, Niagara on the lake, and they could do their shopping, something that Anne loved as well. And then in 2017, Anne moved into the Sunrise Assisted Living Home, where she lived out the rest of her life in close association with her dear sister and under the loving care of Natasha and Ron, who always looked after their aunt, or Aunty Anne, as she was affectionately referred to. And so that was just a brief summary of Anne's wonderful life in the ministry and her service to Jehovah God. And I'm sure later in the day, we probably have an opportunity to express some of the things that you know and appreciated about Aunty Anne and the life that she lived. You know, Anne lived for 103 years, 103 and a half. And that is a lot longer than most people live. And yet, in Jehovah's eyes, it's not a very long time. If you just get the phrase that we use, the scripture that 1,000 years is but a day with Jehovah, we can appreciate that even 103 years, as outstanding as it is really not that long in Jehovah's eyes. And understandably so. Why? Because death was not a part of Jehovah's arrangement. And that can be seen from the way that Jehovah God has created the human body, for one. You know, you look at how if you get cut, it will heal. You just make sure that you give it the proper protection. The cut will heal. If you got a broken bone, and that bone would mend, you don't have to add any kind of a special adhesive or anything to the body. It's just a natural mending process that takes place with the bone. An exhausted body after a hard day of work or a hard day in the field ministry, you come home, you have a good rest, and the body is able to repair itself. And so doctors have looked at it and thought, this has all the earmarks of permanence. This shouldn't be just 50, 60 years and then a decline. And just even if you think of the heart that beats even before birth and continue beating and reacting to our various movements. If we move faster, the heart would move faster. When we slow down, the heart goes back to its rest. The breathing system, the vital signs that someone will look for, you have to be breathing, the heart has to be beating in order to be alive. And yet, Jehovah God has so lovingly created those processes that we don't have to stay awake, making sure that we have just breathed out and then try to remember when we have to breathe back in again. These things just all take place, part of Jehovah's loving creation for us. That certainly is a clear indicator that Jehovah God has designed life forever. And then, of course, in Ecclesiastes, it says that he has put eternity in our hearts. So not only did he design us in such a way that we should keep living, but even the way that we look at life, our mental outlook is we want to live. Eternity is there. So we have the design, we have the desire. And it's interesting that right in the garden, if you turn to Genesis chapter 2, take a look at verse 9 and see what Jehovah God had already placed within the garden itself. In Genesis chapter 2 and verse 9, it says, "Thus Jehovah God made to grow out of the ground every tree that was pleasing to look at and good for food, and also the tree of life in the middle of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and bad." So you notice there in the garden, there was also a tree of life. And what was the purpose of that tree? Well, let's go over a little bit more to Genesis chapter 3 and verse 22. And notice what the purpose was. Then Jehovah God then said, "Here the man has become like one of us in knowing good and bad. Now, in order that he may not put his hand out and take fruit from the tree of life and eat and live," notice, "forever." So Jehovah God designed the body to live forever, put the desire in us to want to live forever. And there was actually even a provision already established in the garden, a tree that man would eventually have available for his usage so that he can live forever. So you would think that is undeniable evidence that really we were designed to live forever. So the reasonable question to ask then is, the design is there, the desire is there, the provision is there. Why do we have an afternoon like this, that we have to express comfort to the family who has lost a loved one, if it was God's plan that we live forever? Well, that had to do with another tree that was in the garden. And that tree had in it a restriction and a penalty. So let's look at that one in Genesis chapter 2 and verses 16 and 17. There it says, "Jehovah God also gave this command to the man: From every tree of the garden you may eat to satisfaction, but as for the tree of the knowledge of good and bad, you must not eat from it, for in the day you eat from it, you will certainly die." So that is the reason now why we have a situation today. Jehovah God had established a clear-cut command for this particular tree that they were not to touch it, they were not to eat it. If they did, they would die. Well, of course, Satan convinced them that that was not the case. That was the very first big lie. Satan said, "You don't have anything to worry about. You have nothing to lose. You will not certainly die. You have everything to gain. You will become like God, knowing good and evil." And so they begin to look at the fruit, and the scriptures describe it as now looking as something desirable. The prospect of being able to be like God is what caused them to partake of that fruit. And so that is what caused the downfall. Genesis 3 and verse 19 shows that what God said to them was true, not a lie. It says, "In the sweat of your face you will eat bread until you return to the ground, for out of it you were taken. For dust you are, and to dust you will return." So that's why we have an occasion like this, because Adam and Eve sinned by partaking of the fruit. We say, well, it was Adam and Eve's sin. How come we are feeling the effects of it today? Turn over to Romans chapter 5. Now let's consider verse 12. It says there, that is why, just as through one man sin entered into the world, and death through sin, and so death spread to all men because they had all sinned. So what happened then is Adam sinned, and he became like a defective mold, for example, a document that you photocopy, and the document has a defect on it, a mark, a stain, or an error of some sort. No matter how many times you photocopy that document, that defect will be transmitted or transferred. It's the same with Adam. Because he was sinful, that sin is passed on to us today. But God's original plan was not canceled out, it was interrupted. Because in Revelation chapter 21 and verse 4, God indicates that he's going to repair this situation. In 21 and verse 4, it says, and he will wipe out every tear from their eyes, and death will be no more. Neither will mourning, nor outcry, nor pain be any more. The former things have passed away. So we wait now. And one may wonder, well, what's the condition now? What's the condition that Anne would be in? Much like when we go to bed at night. We go to sleep, and we have no consciousness of that period of time from the time we fell asleep to the time we awake. The only advantage that we have is because our life force is still functioning, and that can be rekindled by Jehovah God. In Ecclesiastes 9 and 5, it tells us what the condition of the dead is like. It says that for the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing at all, nor know they have any more reward, because all memory of them has been forgotten. So they're not suffering, they can't do anything to us, we can't do anything to them, but we wait. We wait. And it says, whatever your hands find to do, do with all your might, for there is no work, nor planning, nor knowledge, nor wisdom in the grave where you are going. So Anne is resting, but she had confidence in the resurrection hope. That was something paramount in her mind, and she shared that vigorously with others. She helped people to appreciate what Jehovah God and his loving arrangement has done for mankind through the ransom sacrifice of his son, Christ Jesus. And when Jesus was on earth, he demonstrated that he had the ability to restore life that has been lost. Let's look at that account in John chapter 11 and verses 11 to 13. And we'll notice that Jesus even used the same sleep analogy. It says in John 11 verses 11 to 13, it says, after he said these things, he added, Lazarus, our friend, has fallen asleep, but I am traveling there to awaken him. The disciples then said to him, Lord, if he is sleeping, he will get well. Jesus, however, had spoken about his death, but they imagined that he was speaking about taking rest and sleep. So to Jehovah and to Jesus Christ is just a mere sleep, because they have the ability to recreate an individual, to bring them back to life. And so Anne had confidence in that and shared vigorously that with others. John 5:25 says, most truly I say to you, the hour is coming, and it is now, when the dead will hear the voice of the Son of God. Those who have paid attention will live. So we can wait with the same confidence of a resurrection as Anne did. But while we wait, Ecclesiastes says it is better that you go to a house of mourning than to a house of festivities. And you may wonder, well, that sounds a little bit strange. Why would a house of festivity be not as good as a house of mourning? Well, the scriptures indicate to us that it is a time for us to do some sober reflection on the way that we are living our lives. Is it help us to count our days, to get to appreciate what is it that we are doing with our lives. And see, it's in occasions like this that we can reflect on Anne's life. Anne was always conscious of her devotion and love for Jehovah, and always wanted to share the good news with others. Does our life reflect the same attitude? Natasha was telling me a few days ago that even in the final days of Anne's life, she's listening to the Bible being read. And then they stop for a little bit of dinner and they come back and they wanted to know from Anne, do you want to have dinner or do you want to continue listening to the Bible reading? Anne said, chapter 4, please. She had remembered where they had stopped in reading the Bible. That's because her life was wrapped up in that. Did you notice her singing an Old Kingdom song? She had no note. She had no book in front of her, but she could sing from memory. Kingdom melodies. Do we do things that way? Do we also learn melodies so that we can sing and draw close to Jehovah God? But that's the way that Anne was. And so we want to do things. Now, we're not comparing ourselves, but we're using the example of someone wanting to serve Jehovah or longing to serve Jehovah. Brother Minkin also talked about the last few days of Anne's life. And she was able to express a coherent prayer, even at 103 years, a coherent prayer to Jehovah. So we would miss Anne, but you know who else will miss her as well? Jehovah. He will miss her prayers. And whatever time schedule or whatever moments Anne had of taking the time to talk to Jehovah, we should have that same attitude. So we could ask ourselves the question, would Jehovah miss our prayers? Or do we find that maybe he missed them now because we are not praying as often as we can? You see, it's moments like this it's just to reflect on our own life and just to find out how we are doing ourselves. So we take an opportunity or a moment to grieve, but we grieve with the comfort in knowing that Jehovah God knows how we feel because he misses her just as we miss her as well. Her sister Kathleen said that sometimes Anne would have some anxiety. Anxiety over what? Well, she said Anne she can't remember going shopping. She wanted to get some clothes for the convention. Her life was wrapped up around all of Jehovah's activities. Why? Because throughout her life, she was at these big conventions in Cleveland, at the Polo Grounds, that massive big convention that we have around Jehovah's people. Those are things that live within Anne's memory. She always wanted to be at the congregation meeting. So her prayer, her meetings, her ministry, all those things, her life was reflected around. So that's what we want to do as we contemplate these present circumstances as well. So let's take to heart the times that we are living in right now. Appreciate what Jehovah God has set in place. We understand that the perfect life and the permanent life that he had established has only been interrupted, but not terminated. So let's do all that we can to continue our faithful service to Jehovah. And we look forward to one day when we can welcome back Anne. And we look at her as we see her again, and what will we say? Ain't she sweet? Ain't she nice? as we welcome back her. I'm sure that the first thing she's want to do is to be in the ministry and share as much as she possibly can in whatever work that she would be involved in. So that's just a brief look at Anne's wonderful life. We're going to have an opportunity to associate with the rest of the family and hear some remarks. So for now, what we will do, we will play an original song video that reflects Anne's deeply treasured hope for the future, entitled, You Will See. After which we're going to ask one of Anne's longtime friends of over 53 years, John Burns, to conclude with a word of prayer, and then the family would say a few words.
See a world of peace, love, and harmony. Come with me, and you'll see, you will see. It's not a dream, as I'm sure you know. These things God promised so long ago, a guarantee, sure to be, you will see. Look around, there's joy and laughter in every sound. Look and see, this is the way our God meant it to be. And those who fell asleep along the way, they live again, we see them every day. Come with me, and you'll see, you will see.
We're now going to have an opportunity actually for those who wish to share some personal comments about Anne. And of course, we're going to try to get to as many as possible as time permits. Afterwards, we can continue sharing some memories in the breakout rooms, which we'll have set up. We can enjoy some association just like Anne loved to. And of course, we can also offer our condolences to the family as well. For now, if you'd like to make an expression, please raise your virtual hand, and we'll have some in the audience who we can pick from to be able to share an expression about Anne. As well, Ron would like to make a note and a brief mention from the family.
Thank you so much, all of you, for attending on behalf of our family, for joining us today. We have actually family here from Saskatchewan, family and dear friends from Saskatchewan, from Australia, Alberta, Manitoba, Barrie, Montreal, and Natasha's mom and uncle from Odessa, Ukraine. So glad to see you join us, I guess mama and uncle. We also have the caregivers and management from Sunrise Assisted Living attending today, joining us. I see many of our good friends and spiritual family everywhere. We look forward to spending time with all of you in the breakout rooms. Thank you for the flood of cards. We've had food, Greek, Chinese, Italian food being delivered, and the flowers, telephone calls, and many messages in memory of our Auntie Anne. We even received flowers from a friend named Michelle. We had never met in person, and we never met Anne, but as soon as she saw Anne's photo, she was moved by her kind look and expression to send flowers. So all of your acts of kindness are very comforting and really appreciated. Also, we appreciate the kindness and support of all the caregivers and management at Sunrise Assisted Living in Richmond Hill, which became our second home. Thank you, Lyle Brewster, for your beautiful memorial talk, and John Burns for your prayer. Lyle Brewster used to watch my aunt in the 70s from the Kingdom Hall to home. So, and John Burns actually even met her a year before that. So there's a lot of history there. And also thank the Ford Techno audio visual photo videography friends that made this day possible and that are helping with the Zoom. And to our friends in Ukraine, spasiba, to our family there. Every day we pray for Jehovah's Spirit and protection on you. Nui malomsa, Shatabi Yehovah, Yastalava. My mother, Natasha, and I really feel blessed to have our Aunt Anne with us for 103.5 years. And our Bella-based hope is that again, we will see her real soon, not as an old frail person that you've seen at the end of the video, rather someone with spunk, energy, and lots of life, because that's what she was about. Thank you again, all our dear friends and family, for your support. We love you very much. Now, we look forward to anyone who wishes to make a personal expression of Anne. Please raise your virtual hand, and we love to hear you and hear the expressions that you have. So thank you so much. And we have John Burns.
Well, since you mentioned, yes, it was even before Lyle, as I remember Lyle coming as this young, slim-looking, no gray hair brother coming to our congregation, Vaughan, but every home needs a quiet corner. And that's what I remember about Anne, because when I'd walk in the Kingdom Hall as a new Bethelite, there she was, along with a few of our other sisters who had lots of experience, but it was that quiet corner that was very much visible and always there. And after a meeting on Sunday morning, we were invited to some good cuisine, which I always enjoyed. So the memories go back and bring back that warm sense of a calm, quiet corner in our Kingdom Hall. And I see Lyle is smiling because he remembers it well too.
Note how the food theme kind of always comes up with my hand. And yes, the Steve Sperling, please.
Yeah, it's Leslie and I once again would like to offer our condolences to Anne's family. We appreciate being asked to attend. We've known Anne since the 90s, and she was in our book study group. Kind, loving, generous, insightful comments at the group. Certainly, when the brother Brewster had mentioned the Chelsea buns, I always took an opportunity to talk about Chelsea, England, just to make a nudge, nudge, wink. And within the next few days, I'd have a Chelsea bun made for us. We would take her home to and from the meetings and the book study. And one day she's sitting there, she said, Steve, I'd like to go to the A&P, need some groceries. And I said, Anne, I just go home to pee. And she laughed and she laughed. And I didn't think she was going to be able to recover. But every time she saw us after, we had a lot of good memories of Anne and her insightful comments at the meeting. Very spiritual sister, so we'll miss her much. Thank you.
In the photos, you've seen that a few of those are with Steve, and that's what got Auntie laughing the most. I think maybe it was when he had the bottle of wine right beside her. So really blessed to have you, Steve, share in this. And Brother Ken Little, please, we'd love to have you speak. Sorry, Brother Ken Little.
We were never in the same congregation in Toronto as John Burns was, but we all knew Anne by reputation, and we all considered her as sweet, as the song during the video, Ain't She Sweet? And that was our impression of her, petite, small but mighty, and full of love for Jehovah. And she had a good influence on us, even if we didn't always see her in person, by reputation, because we know that Anne was out in the field service. She loved Jehovah. She loved us. We loved her. And we look forward to seeing her again in the resurrection. Thank you for the privilege of being here. And Lyle, I too want to say what a pleasure it is to hear you and to see you again after a long absence. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brother Little. And Brother Pierce, Abby Pierce, please.
Yes, I remember her very well. I was in the congregation at the time. Brother John Burns was there. We were all young men at that time. And then Lyle came a little later. I don't remember him too well during that period. But the thing that stood out about Sister Kenneth is the fact that she had a smile on her face that could never be wiped off. And she was always very encouraging. My impression of her, even now, after being in the congregation with her and watching her perform her ministry and so on, I thought that if there ever was a good definition for what a Christian should be, Anne would be it. She really exemplified what a true Christian was, and her love for Jehovah is one that is inspiring indeed. She didn't make a show of it, very quietly went about her life, but you saw that love being exuded from how she conducted herself. So I was happy to have known her.
Good, thank you so much. So there's a theme of love and food. It seems like with all of us, those are the things that touch our hearts. So, and we have, so at this point, we will open up the breakout rooms. I guess I'll canvass it once more. Is there anyone who'd like to share a final expression and I see yes. Mary Zabinski, please, I'm going to ask you to unmute. Okay.
I just wanted to give my condolences to Kay and to you, Ron. Thank you for allowing me to be here. I was so privileged to be in the same congregation with Anne in the Oakwood congregation. And I feel like the others too. Anne was a very warm, sweet, lovable sister, and very hospitable. Both Kay and Anne are very hospitable, loving people. And I just felt it was an honor to be here today. And my love and my prayers go out to her family. Thanks for allowing me to be here.
Great. Well, it's a privilege to have you. Thank you so much, Mary, for that expression. And we have Luciana Iboni, who is, I hope I pronounced that correctly. I think I have. And that's
Yes.
let me know Dahlia Iboni. And this is Dahlia's mom from Montreal.
My sincere condolences to you, Ron, and Natasha and her sister Kathleen. I've met Anne when she was still living with Kathleen. And I know I saw she was so humble and a kind human being. And I know that we will see her again.
Great. We hope so in perfect life. So, and Sister Beth Russell, please, we'd love to hear you. I'll just ask you to unmute.
Yes, I was privileged to meet Anne when I was a young girl, 8 years of age. She studied with my mom, and she was very kind and loving and gracious. I always remember a beautiful smile, that's true, on her face at all times. She was very instrumental in me coming to learn the truth, my mom and I, but also instrumental in me taking the truth. As a teenager, I studied with a sister actually that's with us here today, Debbie Crane. I went to her book studies, and it was all through Anne, and I'm so privileged to have known her. My condolences to Anne's family. Yeah, thank you very much.
If I could add something, Ron, with regard to Anne, she really had an impact on Beth's life. When Anne was studying with Beth's mom, and Beth was just 8 years old, and she went to school, Beth would stand out in the hallway, although not being a witness, during the opening exercises. And so she had that much impact on Beth's life. And that's when Debbie Crane at the time met Beth, and being a witness, and they developed a good friendship, and that continues today.
Thank you, Mark. I remember if you ask Auntie a Bible question, and with her humility, she would always preface the answer by saying, well, realize I'm just a simple person. But then what came after that proved that completely wrong, because she would have the most deep answer. I think she did read the Bible many times, and she'd have the deepest answer, whatever it is, she knew it. So her being a simple person was simple in humility, but she certainly did have the answers. And even myself, with a couple of years of schooling behind me, I could never come anywhere near the response she did, or the knowledge that sweetheart has. Sister Bonnie Carlson, please. And Bonnie was so kind in assisting my mom and aunt for many years. Over the years, we've known Bonnie for a long time. So please, Bonnie, if you could you'd share.
I just wanted to say hi to Kay. Hi to Natasha. How are you, Kay? And I wanted to say, when I saw that video of Natasha singing with Anne, I have one the same. We're singing the same song, her and I. And I've also got a video of her on Thursdays. They had dancing, and they had a fellow come. He was a dance instructor, and I have a video of Anne dancing with him in her wheelchair. And she would dance and sing. They played all the old songs. She just loved it immensely. She loved life. And like everyone has said, she loved Jehovah. She would talk about Jehovah any chance that she got. We'd do the text together in the mornings if I was there with them. And like I said, we'd sing together. We'd do different things. Kay would always be there too, and we would share the text together and our comments. So I really got to know and love Auntie and Kay, And I'm waiting to be able to go and see Kay again. So I wanted to say hi to all of you, express my condolences, and hope to see you all in person soon.
Thanks so much, Bonnie. Many have asked, how did she make it to 103.5? Well, if you're looking closely on the photos, there's one she was holding something, and it was kind of a white color, and it was a round ball almost. Well, that was garlic she was holding up. So what was her answer to how do you live so long? Well, I guess trying for a stress-free life, trying, but the garlic was the other answer. What you didn't see in the picture is her other hand. And guess what her other hand was doing? It had her thumb up like this. The photos went back to 1923. So we had literally, plus with of course, with our iPhones, we had literally thousands of pictures. And when I take a picture, I like taking about 5 or 10 shots of the same pose, because I know I'll get one of them. Well, Natasha's unhappy with that, because then she's got to go through all these extra photos. So we had probably literally thousands of photos to go through, and we could have had this in a weekend thing, Saturday, Sunday, for 2 years of photos. We tried to pick the cute vignettes that really highlighted her and her as a person, her generosity, and a lot of very special times we had with us, my mom along with us. And if anyone would like the video photography presentation we did, you could either text me or just contact me directly, and we'll get it to you. And Rob Corrado, we want to thank so much, and Nolan and Ethan and Axel Rodriguez, who's behind the scene helping out, and Rob did all the photos and the videos, and he does that for weddings, but he does such a beautiful job of just putting this together, and they all volunteered their time, so we're so grateful for that. But if you'd like to get the file, we'd be more than happy to send it to you. It's 15 minutes long. We played it twice. So any other comments before we have the breakout rooms? And I'm just going to flip the screen in case someone's not using their virtual hand. Yes, Alice and Riverboard, please, we'd love to hear you.
It was a real privilege for knowing Anne when she moved into Thornhill congregation to stay with your mom, Kay. And I really found it as a privilege that I know her, because she had this contagious kind of laughter when I would sit with her after the meeting on Sunday, and we'll be talking, and I say, well, you know what, can you imagine the end comes now? And then we just wake up in the morning and we went to the mirror and you look at yourself and you are like, maybe the way you used to look when you were a teenager. And she will start laughing and I will laugh, and her laugh is so contagious that I will keep on laughing with her, and we'll be laughing together. And I thought that was a memory that I would never forget. So, thanks to your mom, to Kay, for letting her come and stay with her. And I, through that process, knowing her, and I'm grateful, and I thank Jehovah God, and I know that she's just sleeping. Very soon, and I say, well, very soon, you wake up and you see yourself in the mirror and you say, oh my, and you start jumping up, and she will start laughing and I will be laughing. So that's the time we're waiting for.
Thank you so much. And we have Tom Hazelwood, who, when he was able to get in pre-pandemic, got there and took photos. A lot of the photos were from Tom Hazelwood, who brightened up their days, and also let's see, who else was taking photos? A lot of many ones were from Barry and the Sperlings and the Kings, and also Paula, who came to visit. Paula, that's my late cousin's lovely wife from Barry, who's on right now, and so we're so blessed to have her. And as my aunt said, we'll see you soon. It won't be long.